The forest floor trembled slightly, as if something deep beneath the soil had begun to stir. Birds that once sang melodies now flew in silence, abandoning the dense canopy of the green-covered valley. Trees swayed without wind, and animals that once roamed freely had vanished without a trace. Corporal Mason knelt behind a moss-covered rock, sweat dripping from his brow even in the cold air. His squad was supposed to be on a routine recon mission. Nothing special, just drop in, scan the area, and report back. But now they were hiding, guns drawn, breath held. Sergeant Vale whispered over the comms, "I don't like this. Nothing makes the forest this quiet, not even predators." A low, deep growl echoed from the east, then another from the west. The humans froze. The sounds weren't natural. They didn't belong to any known animal. Private Chun clutched his rifle tighter. "We need to move," he whispered, voice trembling. Before anyone could respond, the comms crackled, but not with static there. Was a strange, alien language. A whisper like wind through shattered glass. Then it cut off. Mason scanned through his scope. Between the trees, he saw flicker shapes too large to be men, too smooth to be machines. One of them blinked. It had eyes, dozens of them, like black stones set in oily flesh. The squad fell back, using hand signals. No one dared to speak aloud. Every footstep was measured, every breath controlled. The further they moved, the thicker the mist became, curling around their legs like it had weight. Back at the drop site, the team found their transport shuttle sliced clean through. Not burned, not crushed, just severed like paper. There were no bodies, just helmets, weapons, and blood trails. "Something killed the evac crew," Vale said through gritted teeth. "And it's hunting us." Mason tapped his helmet, opening a private line to command. "Echo 9 to base, we've got unknown hostiles in the Redridge Forest. Request immediate." Static answered him. Then the same alien whisper returned, but louder, clearer, like it was now inside his helmet. He ripped the comms unit out and threw it to the ground. Vale pointed to a small hill nearby. "We hold there. If they want us, they'll have to come through fire." As they moved, Chun dropped to one knee. His foot was caught on something black slime. It pulsed. He screamed. Mason pulled him free, but his boot was gone. So was the ground beneath it, now a pit of teeth. They reached the hill and set perimeter defenses. Small motion-triggered explosives, auto turrets, and thermal sensors. But nothing showed up on the heat scans. The things in the woods were cold, too cold. Night fell fast. Unnatural fast. Like the sky had blinked. Then came the growls again. Deeper, surrounding them from every side. And then a voice. Not a human voice, but clear, calm, measured. "Your world has been chosen for rewilding. Vacate or be consumed." Chun looked around. "Rewilding? What does that mean?" Vale didn't answer. He was too busy unlocking the squad's heavy weapons crate. "It means they don't plan to share." Suddenly, from the trees, shadows lunged. The turrets opened fire, lighting the forest in bursts of orange flame. The shapes moved like smoke, twisting, dodging, impossible to hit. One reached the hill. It was taller than any man. Bone-white armor, insect legs, and eyes that glowed blue. It roared. Mason threw a grenade. The explosion rocked the hill. "Frag out!" He shouted, and for a moment, the air cleared. The creature fell, but it didn't die. It stood again slowly, as if mocking them. The grenade had shredded one of its arms, but black liquid was already sealing the wound. The humans backed up, firing everything they had. Still, more of the creatures came. Vale pulled a small beacon from his pouch and slammed it into the ground. "Fallback signal sent. If command picks it up, maybe we'll get air support," he said. Mason crouched beside Chun, who was bleeding from his leg. "They knew we were coming. This isn't a random attack. This was planned." From above, more shapes dropped from the trees, not just beasts, but humanoid ones too, wearing strange tech that shimmered in and out of sight. A soft humming sound filled the air. The grass began to pulse red. The forest wasn't just alive, it was reacting to the invaders. To them, suddenly Mason saw it clearly, a pattern. The creatures didn't attack randomly. They moved like they knew the terrain better than the humans ever could. Like the forest was their ally, Vale shouted. They're hurting us. They're driving us somewhere. The team fell back again, deeper into unknown ground. They didn't know what lay ahead. But behind them was death, and before them, maybe something worse. Still, Mason didn't stop moving. He held his weapon. Close, eyes sharp, every nerve on fire. Something ancient had awakened in this forest, and it didn't care what side they were on. It only wanted everything gone. Asterisk. The forest didn't sleep, even though it was night. There was no silence, just the low hum of strange energy and the distant growls that never stopped. The mist had changed color now. It was no longer white but faintly green, glowing like it came from another world. Mason moved carefully through thick vines that weren't there the day before. The path they had mapped was now gone, overgrown with plants that pulsed like they had a heartbeat. Behind him, Vale helped Chun limp forward. His leg was worse now, wrapped in bandages, but the black slime had left strange patterns across his skin. We can't go much farther like this, Chun muttered, his voice weak. We don't have a choice, Vale replied. You saw what's behind us, it's move or die. They reached a cliffside with a narrow trail. Below, the forest stretched for miles, glowing with green veins that lit up every time a creature moved. The trees weren't just trees anymore. They looked like they were watching. Suddenly, a buzzing sound filled the air. High-pitched, unnatural. The squad hit the ground as something flew overhead, metal, fast and shaped like an insect. It scanned the area with beams of blue light, then vanished into the clouds. What the hell was that? Mason asked. A scout, Vale said. They're tracking us, maybe testing us. Private Kira, the tech expert, pulled out a small scanner. Her eyes widened. These creatures, they aren't just animals. They use tech, living tech. She turned the scanner toward a nearby root. The root moved. See this? It's wired. It's not just a plant, it's part of a network. They've turned the forest into one giant machine. Mason stared into the trees. You mean we're walking through their computer? Something like that, Kira said. They're connected. Every tree, every rock, every growl, they feel it. A loud screech made them jump. One of the humanoid creatures stepped into the trail. Its body shimmered, shifting between solid and transparent. In its hand was a spear that buzzed with light. It raised the weapon slowly, but didn't throw it. Instead, it spoke. You are not welcome. Turn back or be unmade. Mason raised his rifle. We're not looking for trouble. We're just trying to survive. The creature tilted its head. Survival is not offered, only silence. Then it vanished. Vale cursed under his breath. They could have killed us. That means they're waiting. Why? To scare us, Mason said. Or maybe we're not the target. Kira looked confused. Then who is? Before anyone could answer, the ground shook. Not lightly this time, but hard. Birds exploded from the trees. Rocks fell from the cliff. Below them, a massive shadow moved across the forest floor. It wasn't one creature, it was hundreds. Marching in perfect formation. Some walked like beasts, others flew. And in the center, riding atop a platform made of roots and bone, was something huge. The squad froze in terror. It looked like a queen or a commander. Tall, cloaked in leaves and armor, with dozens of tendrils coming from its back. Its voice echoed in the air, though it never opened its mouth. This world has failed itself. We now return it to wild order. Chun gasped. They're not just invaders. They're cleansing the land. Vale turned away. We need higher ground. If we can't escape, we send everything we learn to command. Someone has to know. The group climbed up the narrow cliff trail. The wind grew colder. The trees here were dead but not fallen. Their bark was scorched, and something had carved symbols into them. Circles with lines crossing through. Kira scanned one. These marks, I think they're warnings. Like "Do not enter." Mason touched one of the burned trunks. It crumbled under his hand, and inside was metal, not natural. Old. They've done this before, he said. This forest wasn't always theirs. They took it. Suddenly, a howl rose behind them. Dozens of glowing eyes blinked into view below the cliff. The creatures had found their trail. Run! Vale shouted. The squad scrambled uphill, firing behind them. Mason tossed another grenade and shouted again, "Frag out!" The explosion sent flames rolling down the slope. For a moment, it slowed the creatures. But they kept coming, walking. Through fire like it didn't matter. At the top of the hill, they found something unexpected: ruins. Stone walls, broken towers, and a shattered gate half buried in vines. It looked human-made. Ancient, but human, Kira gasped. That symbol, it's Earth Command, Old Earth Command. From the first colonists, Mason's mind raced. But that was over 200 years ago. This planet was marked abandoned. Maybe not abandoned, Vale said. Maybe lost. They entered the ruined base. Inside were bones, human bones. Some still in uniform. But there were no weapons, no signs of a battle. Just silence. A screen blinked to life on the far wall. Static, then a recording. A woman's face appeared, tired, scared, uniform stained with dirt. If anyone finds this, don't try to fight them. Don't try to reason. They aren't here to win. They're here to erase. This planet was their seed. We just woke it up. The screen went black. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Mason stepped forward, loaded his rifle, and looked at the others. Then we do what humans always do when everything's lost: fight harder. And the growls returned, louder. Now closer, and more angry than before. Rain started falling, but it wasn't like normal rain. The droplets hissed when they touched metal. They left trails of smoke on helmets and burned tiny holes in exposed gear. Mason pulled his hood up, but even that began to steam. This isn't water, Kira said, holding out a sample. It's acidic light, but enough to corrode. We can't stay out in this. The ruined Earth Command base gave them some shelter, but the roof above them cracked with every gust of wind. Something large moved outside, pacing in the dark. Unseen but heavy. Mason stared at the doorway, rifle raised. How long until that beacon you said earlier gets picked up? He asked Vale. If Command's listening, maybe a few more hours, Vale replied. But I wouldn't bet on it. Chun sat in the corner, still bleeding, but quiet now. His face had gone pale, not just from pain but from fear. That voice from the forest, he whispered. It wasn't just speaking, it was inside my head. Everyone turned to him. It said my name, said I would be the first to return. Kira's hand trembled slightly as she scanned him again. There's something in your blood now, something spreading. It's not a disease, it's code. Mason stepped back. What do you mean? His veins are lighting up. Not glowing, but reacting to their presence. Like he's syncing with the forest. Vale stared. Are you saying the forest is trying to turn him into one of them? No, Kira said. Worse, it's trying to understand us through him. Suddenly, the door burst inward. A wave of black roots crashed into the room, pulling stone and metal apart like paper. The team opened fire immediately. Bullets tore through vines, splinters flew everywhere, and Mason shouted orders over the chaos. Fall back, second room, go. They moved fast, dragging Chun and covering each other. Kira dropped a flame charge. Behind them. It burst into blue fire, forcing the roots to retreat, but only for a moment. The second room was darker, filled with old crates and broken equipment. But in the corner, Kira found something glowing, a strange sphere with earth command symbols etched into it. "It's an AI core," she said. "Old, but still running. If I can wake it, maybe we'll learn what happened here." Vale and Mason barricaded the door as she connected her pad. Sparks flew. The sphere blinked. Then a cold voice filled the room. "Unit 12B reactivated. Accessing. Memory logs." A projection appeared, grainy footage of the same forest, but cleaner. No mist, no monsters. Just scientists, engineers, and soldiers walking peacefully. Until the trees began to move. They thought they could terraform this world, the AI explained. But they dug too deep. Found the seed core, activated it. Mason frowned. Seed core? A living machine buried beneath the planet. The AI said. Its purpose was unknown. Once awakened, it began spreading, reclaiming, learning. The forest is no longer natural, it's one organism, and it hates invaders. "Why didn't anyone warn us?" Vale asked. "Because the council sealed the data," the AI replied. "They marked this planet as lost and erased the records." Mason clenched his fists. "So they sent us here blind, as bait." "Not bait," the AI said. "A test." Before they could ask more, the wall exploded. One of the tall humanoid creatures stepped in, but this one didn't attack. It raised its hand and all the roots around it froze. "I am Thalrex," it said. "You carry the corruption of metal, but you are not beyond understanding." Mason aimed his gun. "Speak clearly, or speak never." Thalrex's eyes blinked slowly. "Your kind comes with fire and walls. This world remembers fire. The last humans tried to burn the seed." Vale stepped forward. "We didn't start this war. We landed, they attacked." "You are not the first," Thalrex replied. "The last ones came to reshape. They left their mark. The forest never forgets." Mason lowered his weapon slightly. "Then why talk to us now?" "Because you carry pain," Thalrex said, looking at Chun. "You bleed, but do not flee. You fight, even when doomed." "The seed watches," Kira spoke quietly. "You said the seed watches. Does it choose?" Thalrex nodded. "It chooses what to keep, and what to erase." Suddenly Chun let out a scream. His body arched. The black patterns on his skin glowed bright green. Everyone rushed to him, but it was too late. His eyes rolled back, and then he spoke, but it wasn't his voice anymore. "We see you, we hear your machines, but we remember life before your kind." It was the seed core speaking. "We are not invaders," Mason said. "We're explorers. Soldiers, yes, but not destroyers." There was silence, and then Chun's body went still. His breathing returned, normal but shallow. The glow faded. "He's alive," Kira said. But something passed through him. Vale looked around. "Then what now?" Thalrex stepped back. "The trial begins." "Trial?" Mason asked. "You must pass the forest," Thalrex said. "Not by killing, but by enduring. If you survive to the heart, your voice will be heard." "And if we fail?" Vale asked. "You become part of the root." Thalrex said. Then he vanished into smoke. Outside, the growls returned, closer, louder, and many. Mason helped lift Chun, turned to his team, and said only one thing. "Then let's walk into hell and make it listen." The path to the heart of the forest wasn't marked. There were no signs, no clear roads, only a thick tangle of roots and branches that seemed to shift when no one looked. Every step felt wrong, like the ground didn't want them there. The deeper they went, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind, no growls, just silence thick enough to choke on. Mason led the way, using his knife to clear vines that moved like they were alive. Kira followed, scanning every pulse from the strange plants. Vale walked beside Chun, who was still weak but breathing. The black lines on his arms had stopped spreading. but they hadn't disappeared. Do you think that thing is still inside him? Vale asked under his breath. Kira nodded. It's watching through him, maybe listening. Mason glanced back. Then let it hear this, we're not dying here. They reached a clearing, strange and wide, where the trees curved inward like a dome. Sunlight broke through, but it was dull and tinted green. In the center was a pool of perfectly still water. Around it, ancient stone statues stood tall, some human, some alien, all half swallowed by moss. What is this place? Shun whispered. Before anyone could answer, the ground trembled slightly. A soft voice echoed through the trees, not from any mouth, but from the air itself. You stand where others fell. The statues began to move. One turned its head. Another raised a hand. They didn't attack. They simply shifted, as if reacting to presence. The forest was watching. Are these test markers? Kira asked. Remains of those who failed? Or warnings, Vale said. Mason looked into the water. His own reflection stared back, but it changed. For a brief second, he saw a version of himself burned, twisted, wearing armor from a different time. His reflection spoke without moving. Its lips, you bring war. He stepped back, shaking his head. This place plays with our minds. Stay sharp. Suddenly, the clearing darkened. Shadows fell like a curtain. From the edge of the trees, creatures began to appear, tall, silent, and not hostile. They stood like watchers. Guardians. Thalrex returned, stepping out from behind one of the statues. You have entered the boundary. The seed hears. The trial begins. Mason stepped forward. Then tell us what to do. No, Thalrex said. You must show who you are. The ground cracked open behind him, revealing a downward spiral path, glowing faintly with green. Light. Without another word, Thalrex turned and walked into the earth. The team looked at one another. Then Mason nodded. Let's finish what we started. They entered the tunnel. It wasn't natural. The walls were smooth, lined with veins of pulsing light. The air was damp, humming with energy. It smelled like old rain and metal. As they moved deeper, Mason's helmet light flickered. Then the walls began to change. Images formed in the light, moving pictures from the past. Human cities burning. Alien worlds under attack. Machines crushing forests. Bombs falling. Screams. The tunnel was showing them war. Human war. Vale clenched his jaw. They think we're nothing but destroyers. They're not wrong, Kira said quietly. Then the images shifted. Humans helping, healing, saving. Soldiers lifting children. Engineers building homes. Doctors treating the sick. Laughter, music, courage. Sacrifice. Mason paused. They're watching how we react. Suddenly the path split in two. No signs, no guide. Just two directions, one full of light, smooth and easy. The other dark, broken, and hard. What's the trick? Vale asked. Mason stared into the hard path. No trick, just truth. They want to see who chooses pain for a purpose. He stepped toward the rough path. The others followed without question. The air grew hotter. The light dimmer. Creatures watched from hidden cracks. One reached out toward Chun but stopped inches from his face, then disappeared. As if sensing something different in him, they reached a chamber massive and round, glowing with soft red light. In the center floated a giant root ball, beating like a heart. Around it, 4 large alien figures stood silently. The seed core. It spoke not with a voice but through their minds. You reach our heart. Now we reach yours. Each of them suddenly dropped to their knees, not from pain but from pressure. Like gravity had tripled. Memories rushed into their minds, not their own, but from past travelers, people who had begged, lied, tried to burn the forest, tried to take it and failed. Then came the question, not in words but in feeling, why should we allow you to live? Mason rose to his feet slowly. Because we choose to protect what we don't own. We fight, yes, but not to conquer. Only to survive, Vale added. We didn't come here to take. We were sent here blind. Lied to, used. Kira stepped forward. But now we know, and we won't be silent. Let us leave, and we'll tell the truth, even if they try to bury it again. Chun didn't speak, but he knelt, opened his hand, and let the black lines pulse. The forest read him like an open book. Then his voice changed again, still not his own. You understand pain. You choose truth. The pressure lifted. The forest heart stopped pulsing, and instead glowed white. You may leave, the voice said. But know this. The war above has already begun. Mason stepped forward. What war? The seed core pulsed once. Your council knows we live, and they fear what you now carry. Behind them, the tunnel began to shake. Roots fell. The walls trembled. Go, the voice said. Your sky burns. The tunnel behind them collapsed. The squad didn't look back. They ran toward the light ahead, boots slamming against the earth, the ground trembling with every step. The air grew colder again, less alive, more like the surface they remembered. They broke through a wall of roots and burst into the open. But the sky was no longer blue. Above them, giant ships floated like black clouds. Earth Council dreadnoughts. Their undersides glowed with red targeting lights, dozens of them. And they were firing. White beams rained down across the forest, turning trees to ash and soil to glass. Whole sections of the jungle exploded in flames. The reaping had begun, Vale cursed. They didn't wait. They didn't even ask. They never planned to rescue us, Kira said. They planned to wipe it all clean. From the edge of the cliff, Mason saw creatures pouring out of the woods, Thalorex's kind, running toward the mountains, chased by fire. Others stayed to fight, their living weapons striking back, sending blue spikes into the sky. But they were outmatched. The Council's machines were too many. Too big, and they didn't care what lived down here. We have to reach the uplink tower, Kira shouted. If we can get the II core connected, we can broadcast everything, show the truth. Vale pointed west. Closest tower is 5 clicks. That way, through the fire zone. Mason didn't hesitate. Then we go now. They sprinted into the chaos. The burning forest around them screamed. Not with voices, but with pain. Trees split open. Roots writhed in fire. Animals, half machine, half organic, ran for cover or dropped in silence. The forest was dying, and yet it still tried to protect them. Vines moved to block falling debris. Ground plates shifted to help them climb. A massive creature, one of the stone-armored guardians, stepped in front of a collapsing tower and held it long enough for the squad to pass beneath. Chun stumbled. Mason caught him. His skin was glowing again, but this time it pulsed in rhythm with the world around them. I can feel them, Chun whispered. They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to stop the ending. Then we help, Mason said. One way or another. Up ahead, a group of council soldiers had landed. Human soldiers in white exo-armor, firing at anything that moved. They saw the squad running and aimed their rifles. Stop! Identify yourselves. Mason didn't stop running. He raised his weapon and fired a warning shot into the air. Stand down! You're firing on friendlies. The soldiers hesitated, but one shouted, Orders are to eliminate all surface threats, no exceptions. They don't know, Kira said. They've been lied to like we were. Vale raised his weapon. Then we teach them fast. A firefight broke out. Bullets tore through the air. Trees exploded. One of the council soldiers fell, screaming. Another fired a rocket that slammed into a hill, shaking the ground. Mason threw a smoke grenade and shouted, Frag out! The cover gave them time. They flanked left, took out the heavy gunner, and disabled 2 suits without killing the operators. Kira reached the squad's comms and overloaded it, broadcasting a wide signal. Council troops. This is Kira Voss of Echo 9. You are firing on all eyes. Cease fire and check your uplink data. This planet is alive. The threat is not the forest. It's the cover-up. For a moment, the battlefield went quiet. Then one of the soldiers stepped forward, visor raised. You're lying. This world's been marked hostile since the old war. Chun limped toward him, opened his palm, and showed the glowing pattern in his skin. This world gave me back my life. I heard it speak. It's not perfect, but it's not the monster here. Behind them, the air shimmered. A projection appeared, footage from the AI core, showing the seed, the truth, and the Council's erased records. It played on every visor in range. Soldiers lowered their weapons slowly. The silence broke again, not from weapons, but from the sky. One of the dreadnoughts had turned its main cannon not on the forest but on the humans below. They saw the feed, Vale said. Now they're erasing us too. Mason grabbed the AI core from Kira. We get it to the tower, no matter what. They ran again. With every step, Mason felt the ground shake harder. Smoke choked the air. Thunder from orbit cracked the sky. The forest roared back, not in fear, but in fury. Trees rose like fists. Roots whipped into the air. Thalrex reappeared, covered in blood, holding a spear made of bone and metal. You carry our last voice, he said to Mason. If it dies, so does everything. I won't let it die, Mason said. Thalrex nodded once. Then run, Fireblood. The sky wants your silence. The tower came into view, half destroyed, burning, but still standing. Soldiers and forest beasts fought below it. A council tank rolled into view, firing at both sides. The ramp was broken. The stairs were gone. We climb, Mason shouted. They leapt onto cables, grabbed ledges, pulled each other up. A shell exploded nearby. Kira almost fell, but Vale caught her. They reached the top. The satellite dish was offline. Melted. Kira didn't stop. She connected the AI core directly to the uplink cables. Sparks flew. The tower shook. It's going to burn out in seconds. She yelled, then let it scream loud. Mason roared. She hit the transmit button, and the signal fired into space. Into every ship, every helmet, every archive. The truth was out. Mason looked at the sky, breathing heavy, and saw the biggest cannon of the lead dreadnought begin to glow. No. More lies, he whispered, and the beam came down like a falling sun. The beam fell like the wrath of a dying god. It struck the tower with blinding force, ripping through stone, fire, and sky. For a heartbeat, everything vanished. Light swallowed sound. Smoke swallowed vision. The blast wave hurled trees, machines, and bodies in every direction. And then, silence again. Flames burned across the ruins. Ash floated like gray snow. The tower was gone, nothing but twisted steel and scorched earth. The forest lay broken, its once living veins now dark and brittle, from beneath a slab of cracked concrete. A hand moved. Mason pushed free with a grunt. His armor was blackened. One eye was swollen shut, but he was alive. Somehow the tower's frame had shielded part of the blast. His ears rang and every bone ached, but he could still breathe. He looked around. Vale? Kira. Smoke answered him. He crawled through the rubble, found Vale crushed under debris, unmoving. Found Kira near the edge, her arm broken, her face burned but alive. She opened her eyes slowly. We did it. Right? She asked, voice like sand. Mason nodded weakly. The signal got out. High above, the dreadnoughts hovered. UNMOVIN. G. Their cannons had powered down. Across the horizon, the other ships had stopped firing. No more bombs, no more beams, just stillness. And confusion. The truth had reached them. The Council's lie had burned away under the weight of raw living evidence. The I-Corps' message, along with the Seed's voice, had played in every ship, every command center, every comlink across the fleet. Chun sat nearby, covered in soot, eyes glowing faintly. But he was smiling. They saw, all of them. Then, he pointed to the forest. It was healing, slowly, but visibly. Vines regrew. The blackened trunks pulsed once more. Tiny sprouts pushed up from cracked ground. The Seed wasn't gone, just wounded. From the distance, more creatures arrived, survivors of the living forest, scarred but strong. Thalrex limped forward, one arm missing, body cracked like dry bark. "You chose the harder path," he said. "You earned the harder." Truth. Mason stood barely. "What happens now?" Thalrex looked to the sky. "That depends on what your kind does with what you've learned." Kira coughed. "They'll want to silence us." "You know that." "Maybe," Mason said. "But it's too late. The truth is out." A new voice crackled on their coms. "This is Commander Halen of the Dreadnought Verdict. We received your transmission. Stand by for retrieval and debrief." Vale stirred. He wasn't dead, just barely conscious. "If they try anything," he muttered, "I'm throwing another grenade." Chun laughed weakly. Mason smiled. 10 minutes later, a small shuttle landed near the crater. Medics poured out. A ranking officer approached, holding a data tablet with wide eyes. "Everything you sent, classified history, black files, banned footage, it all checks out. This planet wasn't dead. It was silenced." Mason looked him in the eye. "And now?" "There will be questions," the officer said. "And pressure. But this time, there are witnesses." They lifted Vale and Kira onto stretchers. Chun walked on his own, glowing veins pulsing softer now. Mason paused, turning one last time toward Thalrex. "We can't undo the harm we caused. But maybe we can stop more from coming." Thalrex nodded slowly. "We will remain. The forest does not forget. But perhaps now, it will forgive." As the shuttle lifted, Mason looked down at the living valley. Green lights flickered once more. Life returned. Not just wild but thinking, breathing, remembering life. A world that had survived betrayal. A squad that chose truth over orders. And a story no one would ever be able to bury again. Above, the dreadnoughts turned away one by one, leaving the forest in peace. And inside the shuttle, Vale whispered to Mason with a grin. "Next time someone says, 'routine recon mission,' I'm retiring on the spot." Mason laughed, and for the first time in days, the sound didn't echo with fear, only with relief. And above the broken planet, across every open come line, the signal played one last time, a voice not of metal or command, but of something ancient and proud. "We are not your weapon. We are not your enemy. We are not your silence. We are your warning." And this time, the whole galaxy listened.